this project, Black Feminists Taught Us, is about honoring the Black women and gender expansive people in our lives, our mothers, our other mothers, our biological and chosen kin, our friends, our family members, whoever it may be, people that we know and even people that we revere from afar, and honoring and centering their life, leadership, their legacy, their love, their inspiration. And so this is how Black feminists have taught us.
I think I fell in love with poetry when I was a child. My mother used to bring books home from her domestic work. That was one of the perks of her going out to white people's houses to clean them. She would bring home discarded and used books for me.
The way that I came to journalism was that I was a voracious reader. And then as soon as I started finding Black women writers, I devoured everything that they wrote. And I think that even for the ones that don't identify directly as feminists, there is something inherently feminist about especially being a Black woman and being like, I have something to say. There is a school of journalism that's just kind of like, you are this blank slate and you're just kind of observing the world. But I don't think that Black journalists have that luxury. The kind of journalism and work that I do is that I talk back. And I say that's something that I got from Black women, Black writers. Angela Davis, Alice Walker, Zora Neale Hurston,
Octavia Butler. You have to make your own worlds, you have to write yourself in. So just that's what keeps me going, especially as a writer, is reading the words of Black women who wrote before me. So my Aunt Peaches inspires me. I speak with her every day. She's all the wisdom, all the time. There's a woman named Diamond Fisher who's an organizer and community worker here. I really look up to her. I have a friend named Pangelica who has a platform called Girl Power, and they do amazing drag and queer events in the city.
Pauli Murray, and Pauli Murray being one of the most brilliant legal minds that we have seen ever.
I've been covering so many young Black organizers in these last 5-10 years, and watching them grow up and watching them have wins and watching them have losses, watching folks that didn't even know that they were ever going to be organizers become organizers. And so that's been a pleasure to watch. At the Beat, we recently had a relaunch. We wanted to cover a woman named Sonia Edie. She's in her 60s. She has been fighting to keep her home from eminent domain for about 20 years because they wanted to, basically starve this block for resources, sell it cheap to a developer, develop it, and then, fancy people could come in. And she said no. Sonia, when she started this fight almost 20 years ago, she didn't know that she was going to be an organizer, but along the way she built up the tools for herself to do this, and she won. So she got to keep her house. And so those are the stories that are so important to me, because Baltimore is such a segmented city. There's the haves and the have-nots, and there's no real in between. And so what I want to do is help people be able to see that there's a way to win, and there's a way to break down the system and change things for the better.
My mother had a 4th grade education, and when I was about 7 years old, she said, Joanne, I've taken you as far as I can. And I had already gone beyond her reading ability. But she was one of the smartest women I've ever met. When she was just, I suppose, a very young woman, she decided that she was going to start buying houses. And we lived in East Baltimore. That's why it's so nice to be here in Baltimore. And we were the first Black people in this neighborhood on Broadway near North Avenue. And after a while, she saw that the landlords would come into our neighborhood, usually white, sometimes Jewish men, and they would buy up the real estate, and then they would separate these row houses into 3 apartments, sometimes 4. And sometimes they would say, we don't want children. And my mother would say, children have to live someplace. So she saved her money, and she went and stood among those landlords. And she had just $500 in her apron pocket. And she knew that she could not go above $5,000 in buying this house, but she bought that house across the street from us, and she put families in that house. And before she passed in 1970, she was the community landlord, and she had 7 houses. So 4th grade education, entrepreneur to the nth degree, and one who loved community.
The work that Black women in Baltimore have been doing here, so you have a ton of wonderful organizations. Black Girls Vote, you have No Boundaries Coalition, you have the I Care Resource Center, you have so many wonderful organizations that Black women are leading and spearheading and really just, taking charge of our own communities, and it's just such a beautiful thing.
My parents' legacy just adds to the richness of the whole Windsor Hills Neighborhood Association. And what they did when they came, this was already a neighborhood that was committed to community engagement and integration during the late 60s, when a lot of neighborhoods, even if they wanted to be that, weren't. But the people in Windsor Hills had committed to it staying an integrated, diverse place. That was my parents' lives. They knew all kinds of people. They embraced the arts in whatever form that was in. And so if you came here to this house in this neighborhood, you got a double dose of that. It's a magical place. I think you can feel that a little bit when you're here. And so to me, it just says togetherness, family, community, and it says tons.
So this collaboration between Philadelphia PrintWorks and Black Women Radicals is meant to fundraise for the School for Black Feminist Thought. Both organizations are committed to political education and also share the mission of advocating for Black women and gender expansive people.